Wizards of the Coast has responded to complaints about their depiction of characters from The Lord of the Rings.
Buckle up, Jimbo. This one's a doozy.
It's the beginning of preview season for Magic the Gathering's upcoming Lord of the Rings Tales of Middle-earth set, which means it's time for another round of discourse surrounding how Wizards chose to depict the various iconic characters of the Lord of the Rings stories. Specifically, how some people are taking umbrage that Wizards opted to depict characters like Aragorn and Eowyn with dark skin. Now, Wizards responded with a statement ahead of the previews, stating that some characters may look different from previous depictions, and that's intentional. Great works of art like The Lord of the Rings are only enhanced by having multiple interpretations in the world. We believe ours will bring joy to many fans of both Magic and Tolkien. This fresh update was a conscious choice made in partnership between Wizards and Middle-earth Enterprises and was driven by two guiding principles. First, diversity. The Lord of the Rings is about the different peoples of Middle-earth coming together to fight Sauron, finding strength in their diversity. Fans of all backgrounds have been enjoying these stories, characters, and locations for decades, and we wanted the set to reflect on that broad inclusion. The second, originality. The goal of the set is to express the story and setting of The Lord of the Rings through Magic the Gathering. Countless prior efforts have painted vivid pictures of this world, but our goal is a modern take on the work of J.R.R. Tolkien, lovingly crafted for an ever-expanding fandom. Now, reaction to the artwork and the early reveals of this set have mostly been positive. A lot of people love the artwork, and so it's phenomenal. You know, just absolutely phenomenal stuff. The Battle of Pelennor Fields, just magic. However, there have been some people who have spoken out about the new depictions of characters like Aragorn and Eowyn. And we will note that this isn't the first time that fans of Lord of the Rings have taken issue with a modern-day depiction of Middle-earth, and specifically the decision to diversify it. You may remember last year, Amazon's Rings of Power series received a wave of vitriol for featuring dark-skinned elves and dwarves as two of its main characters, even though both of those characters were created specifically for that show. Now, Lord of the Rings has, let's say, a complicated relationship with race, which is at least somewhat derived from Tolkien's desire to create a mythology for England. You know, the Rohirrim, the Rohan, that represents the Anglo-Saxon tribes, and Gondor represents the various imperial kingdoms, such as Rome, or the Normans, or the Goths, who are all great powers that ruled over England during some part of English history. Now, meanwhile, the various nations who aligned with Sauron during the Lord of the Rings, the people of Rhûn, the Haradrim, the Khand, those are all rough analogies to some of the great enemies of the Roman Empire. Those Oliphants we see in the Battle of Pelennor Field, yeah, those are actually supposed to represent Carthage and their actual war elephants. Now, discussing Tolkien's use of race in Lord of the Rings and other works about Middle-earth, that would require a lot more nuance and, you know, frankly, a lot more research than a single 5-minute video would allow. However, we will note, Tolkien's writing makes clear that he himself is very much anti-racist. He took stands against South African apartheid. He chided his German publisher for asking him if he was of pure Aryan descent. He even went out of his way to avoid some of the common European racist tropes that, you know, quite frankly, we still see today, namely the idea that people speaking with one language makes them inherently superior to another. You don't see any of that in Lord of the Rings, and that's an entire mythology built around the concept of language. Now, we also understand that largely due to the amazingly popular Lord of the Rings movie trilogy and the Hobbit movies by director Peter Jackson, a lot of fans just envision these characters looking a certain way because that's how they've been presented to them for, frankly, most of their lives. I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies came out, like 20, 25 years ago? So these are characters that you fell in love with while sitting in a movie theater or watching on your couch, and you've been watching those movies for the last 2 decades. So any sort of major deviation from that presentation can be, I don't know, a bit startling, I guess. So, you know, some backlash was almost inevitable. But you have to remember, Peter Jackson's take on these characters have become iconic, but it's still just one man's interpretation of Tolkien's work. And to be honest, Peter Jackson's presentation of Lord of the Rings, isn't even a perfect presentation. There are plenty of criticisms, very valid criticisms, about those movies and how they presented the world of Middle-earth. So, I do think that when wading into how Magic or Amazon or even Tolkien himself depicts Middle-earth, it's really important to acknowledge those sentiments when discussing the world of Middle-earth and those various depictions. And that's really all we're going to say about that. In the meantime, the Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering set will come out later this month, and we want to know, are you excited to check them out? Are you going to be picking up any of the cards? Do you like the way that Wizards of the Coast has depicted Middle-earth? Let us know in the comments section, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.